And you, and you, and you. And you were there. Some of it wasn't very nice, but most of it was beautiful.
Hello.
Hello, Bryan, and hello, listeners. Welcome back to our little podcast here, Dream Idiots, where each week my old friend Bryan and I tell stories to one another, stories from history, stories from current events, stories from our own personal lives, designed to amuse each other and hopefully you. How are you, Bryan?
And hopefully you. I am doing well. Thanks to everyone out there for listening. If you haven't already, please log into whatever app you use and subscribe and give us 5 stars on whatever platform you're using, and shoot us a note too if you want. Send it just saying hey, telling us what you like and don't like, etc.
It's only been 3 weeks since we recorded last, but it's sped by like it's only been 21 days. So here we are with another episode of Dream Idiots.
And we're recording on a internet connection that is saying it's unstable. So we'll see how this goes.
Yes.
Morris's signal is popping in and out, but that's okay. We're gonna give it a go here and hope for the best. So go ahead. What?
I was just going to say you're going first this week, correct?
I am up first, correct.
And as Lawrence Welk once said, hit me with your best shot.
Well, we'll see how it goes. Thank you, boys. So we're going to talk this week a little bit about just kind of wordplay in general. I've got probably, I think, 3 episodes sort of lined out, just talking about the English language and other aspects of English in general that are funny and ridiculous and useless and just sort of fun to talk about. Mostly I'm doing this because I know that Morris is a fan of these types of topics and loves torturing people with puns and anagrams and other nonsense like that. And so I know you're a fan of anagrams, especially because you used to send me a whole bunch during the last NFL season. You were sending me anagrams of NFL team names just to give me a hard time. So for the folks who don't know, if you can please just offer up your best definition of what an anagram is.
An anagram for me?
Yeah.
An anagram is when you take a word and scramble the letters to make a whole different word or series of words that have the same number and same exact letters in them as the previous word.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. And actually, just because I was not wanting to offer up a more accurate or detailed explanation, I realized at one point, months ago, I think 3 months ago, right after we started launching the podcast, people asked me how we came up with the name Dream Idiots, and I realized that my first name has 5 letters, yours has 6. Dream Idiots is exactly the same. And so I started telling people that Dream Idiots is an anagram of Bryan plus Morris. And everyone basically went, oh, okay, yeah. No one caught on to the fact that it's not an anagram of that yet. Eventually, I'm waiting for someone to be, working on something else or mowing their lawn, going, wait a minute, that's not true at all.
Dream Idiots, so it's got to be in it. Dream Idiots.
So anyway, anagrams are kind of cool, kind of funny. What can I say? They're a bit of a time suck, but they're sort of ridiculous. So evil and vile is a basic example of a really simple anagram. Binary anagrams into brainy, and there are several that are just sort of ridiculous and funny. Apple Macintosh. Ever heard this one before?
Off the top of my head, no, I can't do that. Hot.
Don't worry. I'm not going to try to quiz you on these. Apple Macintosh.
Hot ashen mess. I don't know.
Apple Macintosh anagrams to laptop machines.
Okay.
George
Much
Bush.
nicer than what I was thinking.
Oh yeah. George Bush turns into he bugs Gore as an Al Gore. Seems spot on. Madame Curie anagrams to
radium.
Radium came.
Okay.
William Shakespeare turns into I am a weakish speller. Ronald Wilson Reagan turns into insane Anglo warlord. So some anagrams are spot on. The one I just put this in this list because I thought it was funny. I don't know why this amuses me so much, but Britney Spears, the anagram for Britney Spears is Presbyterians. I'm not sure why that's funny to me, but there you go.
Because not only she's a Presbyterian, she's at least two of them because it's plural. So
exactly. Right. And so related to anagrams are antigrams, which you may have heard of as well. Is that
no, that's a new one to me. No.
Okay. So you have anagrams, which both words have the exact same letters in that word or phrase. An antigram is exactly the same. The resulting word has the exact same letters or number of letters in it, but the resulting word is essentially either a satire of or the opposite of the original word. And there are tons of these, and some of them are amusing and pretty funny. So others are sort of, unusual, kind of spot on. Santa becomes Satan. That's sort of
okay.
obvious.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah, okay. All right. Restful becomes fluster. Not really the exact opposite, but close. Adultery, antigrams to true lady. The opposite of, or the anagram for funeral, real fun.
Well, and I mean, that could be an antigram or, come on.
Right. Who doesn't love
Who doesn't love a good funeral?
Yeah, exactly. Right. 45 antigrams to over 50, that's just Bryan lying about his age, I guess. Church of Scientology. Those three
Bullshit.
words.
No,
Right.
Wait.
Steaming pile of wait. The anagram for that is rich, chosen, goofy cult. That's spot on.
You realize that we are now on a list somewhere, right? Just by having that in our podcast.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Dormitories becomes tidier rooms.
Well, okay.
Okay. Customers become store scum. Again, pretty, for those folks out there that work retail,
This would be a great job if it weren't for the customers. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Within earshot, antigrams to I won't hear this. And then two more. Thomas A. Edison, antigrams to Tom has no ideas.
Well, he stole quite a few, so
that's true. Yeah. And then a volunteer fireman, antigrams to I never run to a flame.
I had never heard of antigrams before, Bryan. That's pretty good.
Fairly amusing. So that's sort of the first little thing I was going to run past folks, talking about wordplay in general. The second thing is a little bit of a quiz for you. It's a little bit more straightforward and might give you a chance, because I still have to get back at you for the college game from a month ago. The other thing I was going to talk about is in the English language, we have, I think English has like 300,000 words, and a staggering number of those words are very, very straightforward in terms of what word you have to go to when you're seeking the opposite of a certain word. So if you have understand, you have misunderstand. If you have place, you have misplace, etc. And so there are a whole bunch of words, however, that don't follow this convention at all. And words that fall into that category are called orphan negatives, where you take the original word and then think, well, wait a minute, the opposite of that word is not the same word taking off something. So, the quiz here for you is I'm going to give you a word, and you get to guess what the it's going to be fairly obvious which of these are words and which of them are not. Most of these are actual words, but they are not in common usage at all.
Oh, shit. Okay. All right.
It'll make sense as we get into it. So if you're unhappy, you're disgruntled. But if you're happy, you're
sad. Oh, you're gruntled?
Yeah, you're gruntled. Yeah, I mean, gruntled is a word.
Okay.
But no one uses it. If you're, if you're not intelligent, you could be called an imbecile. But if you're smart, are you called a
bacille?
Bacille? that was, I think that's the only one on the list that I didn't confirm whether I didn't look up and make sure that was the actual word or not.
An esile? An esile? An acil?
An acil? I don't know. So if you're trying to make yourself scarce, you're incognito,
Cognito.
right? But
Okay.
again, not used. If you're the opposite of decapitation,
Capitalization. Capitation. I mean,
yeah, capitation,
putting a
yeah,
head back on.
right,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. If you're trying to, it's the same as with dismember. Are you trying to then member something if you're reattaching a hand? Like, again, words that are not used.
Okay.
So invincible,
Invincible.
right? And if something is, if you have a body of water that's really, really still, it's inert. But if it's in motion, is it
Ert.
So something that does not cause harm is reference, is called being innocuous. But if it causes harm, it's
Noxious.
noxious, right? Not actually innocuous,
Innocuous?
I think. Yeah. And the one that this one I just, for some reason I love this as well. So ineffable. Ineffable is a word.
Effable.
Effable. It's like not really a word that's in common. I mean, the modern parlance of that is, she looks really hot, she's totally effable, right? But that's not how it was originally intended. And then innocent.
Nocent.
Nocent is a genuine fucking word, but no one uses the word. Innocent or guilty, innocent or nocent, right? And then nonchalant.
Chalant.
Yeah, chalant is a genuine word. Yeah, but again, not
those
one.
Those are all real words.
I believe every single one of them are real words that are not used.
Okay, what about if you're really without mercy, you're ruthless? So if you have mercy, does that make you Ruth?
Ruthful. makes you Ruth.
Okay.
That just makes you Ruth. Good old Ruth.
Oh, you're going to get me back for that college quiz, Bryan.
Oh, I've only just begun.
That rebel base will be quite operational, my friend.
So just playing around with some words on future installments of Wordplay. I think the next one's going to be discussing the very broad topics of malaprops versus spoonerisms. So that'll be for a later.
Oh, those are good. Spoonerisms, yeah, I love those.
That'll be for a later date.
Sounds there you have it. Me.
Wordplay Part 1.
We'll bring it on.
And I will say here before we shift over to your story, I will say here, because I'd failed to pull together a curse word of the week, but I will mention here that if you go on the Dream Idiots website, we pulled together a little fun product just for the hell of it, because we're hateful and mean-spirited. And we have a line of products now that featured the expression, clear eyes, full hearts, fuck Ted Cruz. This is our first recording since the shootings in Uvalde and elsewhere. And if you think the junior senator from the state of Texas is a worthless pile of shit like we do, please go to our website and buy a product, and we're going to donate some funds from that to I'm drawing a blank.
Everytown
for gun safety. We're going to send any money that's made from that to Everytown for gun safety, if you're at all interested. So t-shirts, stickers, coffee cups, whatever you want.
Yeah, and having been in San Antonio for the last few days here, taking care of some family things, they just had the services, and the community is like, what can we do? What can we do? Well, we can start by getting better representation in our government. And having lived in Colorado for 6 years, and we've been through the recent shooting in north of us from Denver, and then the Aurora shooting at the movie theater. It's just, we need better representation, and we need people who do believe there's a solution, and a solution that doesn't involve giving more people more guns. So if you're so inclined, pick a shirt up, and the proceeds go to Everytown. And Bryan designed that lovely little shirt, and it's a great design. It's short, simple, to the point.
It's basically pretty simple, but and it's crass and it's rude, Yeah, but so is the unimpeded access to military style weaponry. So I had one person reach out to me and say, "Why do you go to so much trouble to be rude about these issues?" And I respond the way I always do, which is, "It's no trouble. I'm happy to be I'm happy to be rude about it."
I mean, the guy can get a gun easier than he can rent a car at the age of 18.
Right, and there's
Right?
right, and there's more. I mean,
Yep.
this past week, I went to Walgreens in an attempt to buy more decongestant and was told no because I had already bought too much. But if I'd driven around the corner, I could have picked up whatever I wanted in the way of AR-15s and thousands of rounds of ammunition, because idiots like Ted Cruz and Greg Abbott are allowed to stay in office. So, buy a T-shirt, buy a mug, just go to the Everytown website and give them some money directly.
So while on the subject of Texas traditions, Bryan, I would like to shift over to my story, if you don't mind, for now. This is my second trip down to Texas in the last few weeks, taking care of some family business. And I did a whole lot of driving a couple of weeks ago. Flew into Austin, picked up some things, drove from Austin to Dripping Spring to San Antonio, then San Antonio to Denver in one fell swoop. And boy, was I tired. But one of the things that really amazed me is how much the highway systems have changed. And this isn't a story about, I remember when it all were fields around here. What it is about is it is about a little place called the Snake Farm on I-35 near New Braunfels, Texas.
Oh, sweet.
I'm sure all of you who are listening have had a snake farm of one time or another that promises animal experiences on the side of the road. The snake farm has been there for as long as I can remember, dating back to at least the 70s and probably beyond that. Wiley Ray Hubbard has a song about it called Snake Farm. And some of the lyrics are Snake Farm. It's a reptile house. Snake Farm, it sounds pretty gross. Snake Farm, well, it pretty much is. Snake Farm. And for years, the Snake Farm has stood on I-35 south as you're going towards San Antonio. And for a long time, it was this building kind of up on a little bluff by itself, as I remember as a child. And I used to beg my mother to stop there when I was little because I wanted to see what was going on in the Snake Farm. And one day, Bryan, I got my wish. The conditions were just right. And for some reason, I was up in the New Braunfels area with my mother and her parents. And it was my grandfather who finally convinced her to stop. And I think he was convincing her to stop to spoil his grandson, and because he really wanted to see inside the Snake Farm. Because the sign on the outside of the Snake Farm, it promised snakes and reptiles, watch them hatch, see snakes from around the world. But what was the clincher for me, and the real reason I wanted to go into the Snake Farm, was a sign that was right next to it, where it said snakes, reptiles, watch them hatch. And then a separate sign next to it said live gorilla. Now, even as a 7 or 8 year old, I knew that one of these things did not belong with the others. Now, the snakes are great, but I grew up spending a lot of time out in the Texas Hill Country. I'd seen rattlesnakes, I'd seen copperheads, cottonmouths, corals. I didn't need to see any more snakes. I wasn't going in for the snakes because my favorite place to go to when I was at the zoo as a kid, and even as an adult, even though I really don't like zoos, is the monkey house. So I was clearly going in for this gorilla. Now, as I recall, my mother and grandmother stayed outside for a smoke while my grandfather and I went inside. My grandfather paid the little fee, and it was a long, low building filled with, and it smelled, of course, because it's a reptile house, but it had that funny reptile smell to it. And there were rows and rows of cages with snakes and reptiles in various stages of development. And sure enough, along the back wall, there was a large cage, but still not large enough to accommodate the gorilla. He still looked pretty damn miserable sitting on a pile of hay. And in my mind, my 7-year-old mind, what I knew was going to happen then was the following. I was going to approach that gorilla and from a distance kind of reach out my hands in a show of peace. And that gorilla would look into my eyes and realize that I was a person to be trusted, and that he would bend back the bars and become my friend. And we could somehow speak and communicate through some kind of weird kid side language. And then we would go and have adventures. I don't know, maybe he would wear a hat and we could solve mysteries and he would fight commies together. I don't know what I was thinking when I was a kid, but I just knew that I could get through to this caged gorilla and he was going to be my buddy. And I remember approaching the cage, and I remember looking at him, which you're not supposed to do in primate culture. I remember kind of probably staring at him, saying hi, and he kind of cocked his head at me. And what I remember is that he, and you folks can't miss this, but I'll try to describe it as what I'm doing to Bryan. He slowly turned and stretched out his hand to me with his palm up like this, like gesturing to me, like he wanted something or wanted me to take his hand in his cage. And then he slowly raised his hand and curled back his fingers and his thumb and brought them up in a perfect middle finger salute, while at the same time blowing just the longest, nastiest, sloppiest raspberry that I'd ever heard in my life. So there I am, standing in the snake farm in I-35 as the gorilla is giving me the high sign, and my grandfather is doubled over with laughter. And I think I started probably laughing too, half laughing, half crying, because here's this gorilla was flicking me off. But then, as I'm older, I think about it, and that poor bastard probably had to sit there in that cage day in, day out, and deal with snotty little kids like myself, and probably drunken college students from what was then Southwest Texas, coming down from San Marcos to hang out. And when you think about it, there was probably nothing more satisfying to him that he could possibly get away with than giving us the finger on a hot Texas summer day.
Right.
But that's all I remember of the snake farm, is standing there getting the high sign from this gorilla somewhere in South Texas. And to this day, I know I shouldn't like zoos. And when we do go to zoos, I do enjoy the zoos that treat the animals more like they're in their native habitat. And I do like it when animals behave like animals. And that poor guy was obviously not behaving like an animal, but he definitely learned some kind of sign language for us. And what it set up for me years later was in the Houston Zoo. I was chaperoning one of my kids through a zoo trip with their class. We came upon the monkey area, the primate area, and there was a monkey calmly sitting on a post, and I was with the other kids, and this monkey was just sitting minding his business. And I was thinking at that moment of the gorilla, and what could we possibly see today that could top the gorilla flicking me off and blowing the raspberry? And this smallish monkey struck out his hand lightning quick and grabbed a little sparrow out of nowhere that was flying past him and promptly snapped its neck with a horrific crack, which sent most of the children screaming off into the distance. And then he started flapping the bird as though trying to make it fly again with one hand, flapping in a circle. And the whole time I'm thinking, now this tops the gorilla for sure, because this is nature red in tooth and claw. And then he marked the bird by urinating on it and wiping his bottom with it to get his scent on it, which sent what was left of the kids scrambling out of the way. And just the teacher and I left there staring at each other, horrified at this ritual we had just witnessed. So on the times I do have encounter with animals, I like to realize that they are indeed animals, and we want to be friends with them and have magical adventures, but that's not what's going to happen. And we shouldn't encourage our children to do such. Teaching our dog tricks is one thing, and playing with their cat is quite another, but don't try to go on adventures with gorillas you find at snake farms. And that's my story of the strange encounter at the snake farm on I-35.
Well, obviously, your parents were better than mine, because I did that drive 1,000 times in the 70s and early 80s, and wanted to go to the snake farm every single time. I've never been to snake farm to this day.
It's not that great.
I know, and I realized that. I figured that all along, but there is an episode of there's that show on maybe AMC or I forget now which channel it was. Dirty Jobs. Where the guy
Oh
actually
yeah.
he actually went there and worked at the snake farm for a day doing awful stuff, and place is a complete pit. So oh well.
I can't imagine, and I don't think your parents. I think your parents did the right thing in not taking you to the snake farm. But there are little places like that all across America that just really, it's almost instinctual for me to want to just kind of pull the car over and check it out, just because something like that might happen there, because you never know. Of course, you could go in and not come out of one of those places too. So I mean, who knows?
Wait, they have the world's biggest ball of twine, and they have live chinchillas. Let's go. Like, oh,
Yes.
no,
And the twine is made out of chinchilla. Yeah, so that was my I was hoping to get a story out of my drive, because I thought, I'm going to have a long time to think about this drive from San Antonio to Denver. Maybe I'll get a story out of it. And little did I know it was going to be from Dripping Springs to New Braunfels when I got my story. That just popped into my head. I remember when that happened. So there you go, reporting from Texas, the snake farm.
All righty.
Another story for Dream Idiots.
I'm just happy that the gorilla didn't fling shit. That's what I was expecting you to say.
Well, no, but that did happen one summer when one of my teachers was volunteering at the San Antonio Zoo. The gorilla grabbed one of the keepers and pulled him up to the bars and smashed him in the side of the head with a bunch of poop.
Yeah,
because he was angry at him. So, they let us know when they're unhappy. Poor guys.
Oh, well.
Yep. And another one's in the book, folks. Thank you for joining us on Dream Idiots.
Thanks for listening. Rate and subscribe and do all those good things. Let us know what you think. DreamIdiots.com. You can email us at dreamidiotspodcast@gmail.com. And we will be back again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, folks.